Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Well, welcome everybody to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name's Jeff Thomas, and we've got Jeff Rutt with us today. Say hello to the people, Jeff.
Hello to the people.
And we have two very special guests with us this week. We have Pat and Janel Hord. They run Hord Family Farms, which is a large farming operation in Ohio. And they have grain, pigs, cows, all kinds of things. And we're going to hear all about that. And Jeff, of course, knows something about this world. I know nothing. So I'm here to learn like you. And so welcome to the program, Pat and Janel.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Jeff, why don't you kick it off for us?
Yeah, welcome, Pat and Janel. So good to have you on the podcast. This is such a pleasure and an honor, and I'm sure our listeners are going to be really excited about what they hear today. But let's start with the early years. What was it like for you, for each of you growing up? Maybe faith journey, maybe some fun stories of the younger years. But then, how did you meet? How did you decide to continue, in this area of agriculture where extremely productive? Just for our listeners, this is not a few cows and a few hogs. This is a very, very large commercially run operation. I think 9,000 acres, 350 employees, 550,000 hogs. Just a lot going on. But take us back to the beginning.
Sure. Well, I'll tell a little bit about myself. I grew up on a farm, and I have one brother, and we truly decided that I wasn't sure I really wanted to grow up and marry a farmer. My dad was gone a lot, and he did a lot with the township and just other things besides just farming. And we did have some pigs growing up when I was younger. But at age 13, I gave my life to Christ and didn't grow probably in my faith as I should have at that age. I mean, those teenage years can be tough, I guess. But I started dating my now husband, Pat, and we went to church together. He took me with him, and I just flourished in my walk with the Lord through that church and that ministry. And I'm very thankful for that. I graduated from the Ohio State University and the Ohio State University.
That's right.
And with a degree in elementary education. So I teased Pat that he married me for my Ohio State football tickets because we did get married between my sophomore and junior year in school. And we had some pretty lean years paying those bills and just being married, but very thankful for the Lord's blessing. And we today have 4 children, and 2 are married, 1 soon to be married, and we have 4 beautiful granddaughters.
Love it.
Yep.
Well,
we both had started out on farms and worked together. We didn't really know each other until we were juniors, and I was a junior, you was a senior. She's slightly older than me, but I know she looks younger. But she her and I were in a musical together, and we both tried out for the choir, and we both ended up the leads in Oklahoma. I was Curly, and she was Lori, and even though we grew up in the same county, we were on different ends of the county. And so anyway, so we didn't get to know each other until then. And so kind of the rest is history. We got married fairly young, and I was 3 days after my 19th birthday, because I thought 19 sounded a lot older to get married than 18. So, so that was 30, going to test me 36 years ago. So we're, so we've been ever since, and just grown through, God is amazingly, for whatever reason, allowed us to go from a very humble beginnings and just blessed us with everything that we have. Obviously, we sometimes, just amazed at how he's, used our different giftings, and you just pray and ask for, wisdom to steward what he's given us. And so that's really, really what we've just done over the years. And it's been fun to be along with Janelle and our families together. And so, yeah, it's been a good time, but that's kind of the early years.
So take us back just slightly before we go forward on when did you come to Christ, and then maybe walk us through your thought process on whether you were going to continue in
Yeah.
agriculture and what that looked like.
Yeah. So I accepted Christ in a vacation Bible school when I was about 5 years old, and I went to my grandparents had taken me, and and so was actually baptized, I think, in a farm pond north of our local town and we yeah. So I think I was 8 years old at that point, and just always was fortunate to, I just had a hunger for Christ and a hunger for things. It's just like God's blessed me with that, and so and as I was getting older, I was in my older high school years, and I started beginning to feel this tug, like I needed to be in ministry or some type, and so this would have been the mid to late 80s. And so and I really didn't, we're all on a journey, and I just thought, well, hey, I think maybe God's calling me into some type of full-time ministry. And so, but my parents, about in the late 60s, my grandfather and my dad were able to get stop their off-farm jobs, and had been like trying to build their farming, enterprise. And they had gotten a place, and I grew up with my dad saying, hey, I'm working hard. I want to be able to get enough to where you can come and farm with us. And so you have this kind of pressure of like, okay, am I going to like go into ministry, or am I going to stay on the farm? And I guess little did I know, I didn't necessarily need to choose that at that time. I thought, well, there's a choice between, but I prayed for God's will, and I think I had to get to a point where I had to surrender. And so I surrendered to him, because I was really wrestling with it. I thought, I need to go to Bible school or Bible college and go this path. And then, once I surrendered, once I finally said, okay, God, you can send me to the proverbial, Africa, I'm okay with it, kind of thing. And it's like, once you kind of surrender, and then it was like, he said, no, I want you to go farm, because, that verse in Psalms, Psalms 37:4, delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. And I believe that can go both ways. He can change our desires, or he can give us our desires. And he had given me a desire to farm. And so then we just kind of always mentally, that's how we approached everything. We approached like, we're in full-time ministry, but I don't derive my income from being on staff at a church or something. But we've always, so that's how we approached that paradigm when we are involved in church, and we were involved in a lot of the things we do today, is just that, from that perspective.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful that once that surrender happened, God said, okay, now I can use this.
Matt, do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah, I have two younger sisters, so that aren't involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, but my one brother-in-law is. And then we have and they both have pieces and parts and some ownership as well. And then Janelle has one brother.
Okay, so give the neophyte. We were talking earlier. You know a lot about the food system, you and Janelle. Can you give us a quick primer on the business?
Well, you want to, or you want me?
Janelle, you want to start?
Yeah.
Sure. Your question would be then, how are we using our gifts and okay. I think one of the things that Pat and I've tried to do from the beginning is to always acknowledge that everything we have doesn't really belong to us, it belongs to the Lord. And so when we make decisions based upon that, we always try to always go back and reflect upon those decisions that would honor him. And I remember we were going through a pretty rough time. The price of pigs had really, really dropped. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't know, Lord, what you're doing, but this is difficult and this is uncomfortable. And it's one of those points, I think, for myself personally, I had to realize that I am not in control. God surely is. And although things have not went smoothly perfect since then, but I do take that time and period and go back and reflect upon how God did take care of us even when I didn't see it in the moment. He truly did know what was going to be. And so I think that for us personally, we've tried to manage the business and in that manner and honor that decisions that would be pleasing to him. So, we have a culture tree that we're very useful in our business as far as making decisions. And our whole team has this culture tree hanging at their office or in their farm and, focusing on some of those beliefs that we believe that we have courage to do the right thing and trust one another and care for one another and our farm and our community. And we empower our team to make decisions and just innovation too. Is that what we're doing today? We want to continue to improve and do better. If there's an opportunity to do that, we want to do that. So that's one of the neat things I think that we've done in the last several years is we've hired a chaplain to be at our farms, and that has provided an opportunity for multiple conversations to be had that Pat and I and any of our family really probably would never have been able to have. Yeah. So we currently have a female chaplain that she goes to each of the farms once every week, every other week, and she's doing simple things to build a bridge with each of our team members. And she keeps track of each one and prays for each one. And she has a Rolodex of names. And before she walks into the farm, she's praying before she goes in. And just that's something that, Pat and I can do, but they're not going to talk to us about their daily struggles like they would her. And she's so good. She checks up on them, and she's done marriages. She's done funerals. She has been to many hospital visits. She's been to people's houses with food. She's just really been the hands and feet of Jesus that we are thankful that we have the opportunity to allow her to do that. And that's been very purposeful on our part and our family's part to do that. And the other thing I think that I will share is that when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And so the adage of years and years ago of a handshake, now you've got all the legalese and all of the documents and all of the sign this and sign that. And I think that for us personally, we've tried to say, if we said we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And even when it's lean, we're going to do it because we know it's to do the right thing.
Love that. Pat, you want to jump off of that and kind of talk about how you think about the business platform and feel free to do a little bit on the food business. I mean, being in a commodity business, of course, I'm in Houston. The commodity I'm most used to is oil and gas, but it's a little bit of that same price taker. So there's only so much you can do to control the selling price, but costs, as you say, Janel, right? I mean, moving up and down, maybe the benefits, and okay, maybe if prices aren't so good, we let the ministry piece go for a while. It sounds like you really try to maintain it. Pat, maybe just give us your take on the industry, and then specifically how you guys, maybe jumping off of what Janel said, try to use the business as a platform.
Yeah, I mean, as you think about in agriculture, there's so many things that we can't control. We try to control. We're like everything else in every other business, and you have other businesses can't control everything that happens to them, but we have a level of biblical, it talks, we're planting seeds. We can't, we can't make anything grow. We're reliant on that top our whole existence, not only just us, our whole existence relies on that top 6 inches of topsoil, to be able to grow food. And it's a level of faith that we get to see those biblical principles and those parables that Jesus told live out every day. We have to have that. We deal with the weather, we deal with diseases and viruses and things in the animals. We deal there, the health of the animals, and just so many things that you don't have time to get in any way, shape, or form. It just keeps you humble. So there's enough. Anytime you think you got it all figured out, just take a step back up, and because you don't. And so I think everybody deals with that to a level, but as I interact with my friends and things, there's just things we deal with that a lot of businesses don't deal with. And so that, I think, has a nature of faith component to it. I feel like that's and so I mean, and kind of like to reinforce off of what Janel's saying, you really approach it. I had a friend of mine tell me one time, we were talking about it, and we were talking about the different things we do, and it's like, well, it sounds like you have a church, not a business. You're working with, you're giving, and you're like, you have chaplains, and you do, you have all these things. And we're saying, yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way, but you just try to take the platform. It's the same thing that, Jeff, you've done, and both Jeffs, I guess, both, you guys have both, I think we're all called to say, okay, what does it look like in my context? Because there's people that you have the ability to rub shoulders with and interact with that I will never. And even if the, us on this call, we have opportunities for ministry that no church will ever have. We have kind of a post-Christian society today. And so it's like, and so we have, Janel talks about, like, our chaplain doing weddings and funerals. And I mean, there's a large swath of people today in our culture that have no church context. And so when they hit life's bumps, which everybody inevitably does, and we all have, what do you do? Where do you go? And who do you talk to? And so she's, Joy. And then we also have a new chaplain in Minnesota as well, in our operations out there. And so you have these, so we're just looking for opportunities to use the platform, and it's disingenuous to us we really enjoy focusing on generosity and how we can, but it's disingenuous if we don't take care of our people and we don't interact. And because we have this whole sphere of influence, that we have vendors, and we have customers, and we have, it's just like a whole circle. And so we're just trying to take that platform that God has given us and provided us, and trying to steward it the best way we know how. So, and we just happen to do it in the food system. We're part of the food chain. We raise food every day. We try to instill that in our team. We're not raising corn, or we're not raising to a certain spot. We're not raising pigs and cows. We're raising food, and so, and we treat it as such. We respect. We take that seriously. Our training and our teams, and how we go about it, and how we care for animals. And we say we want to respect them, because I feel like that's what we should do. We respect them in life, but we also respect them in the harvest side of it. And so it's a piece that, and so I think there's a lot of misinformation, or people that haven't grown up in agriculture. They just don't know. And we as humans fear things we don't understand, right? I mean, it's like, it's just natural for us to fear things that, and it's pretty intimate. We eat food every day, or if you don't, you're not, you're gonna waste away. You may fast, I guess. I'll take that. But like when you're not fasting, you're going to eat, and so it's a emotional thing. And 50 years ago or 75 years ago, 40 or 50% of our nation's residents had some tie to actual agriculture, and so today it's 2%. And so how does that? So it makes it easy for people to not understand, and so there's a lot of misinformation, and depending on what aspect what type of opinion you have of certain things. And I guess I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but just people need to feel confident. I've got several friends that have similar farms to us, and we all diligently care about what we're doing. We're working hard every day to care for animals and not to do things. People talk about like, there's labels that say that we don't, there's no hormones in this, well, there's no approved hormone that can be put into a pork. It's like, but there's labels all over it. The only thing that you can do is give a shot of oxytocin to help a sow have a baby pig. It's like, and most people probably are going to relate to that from a human aspect, and so it's like, or Pitocin or whatever it's the same thing. And so, or not the same thing, but it's the same family. And so you kind of look at it and go like, and so there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I just encourage people to, like, if you have questions, like we eat all the pork and the things that we raise, and we look at it that way. We look at, I think we produce something like, I don't know, I haven't looked at it recently, but something like a third of the pork that every resident would eat in Ohio, or something like that, and so you kind of look at the, it's in, that's not how the food system works. So it's not all Ohio, but you get what I'm saying on a per capita. And so we take that with a lot of responsibility.
You've covered a lot there, Pat. Really appreciate your humility. By the way, if you haven't, speaking of pork, if you haven't heard Jim Gaffigan's little sketch on bacon, you have to look it up on YouTube. And hear Jim Gaffigan talk about bacon. I'm not going to take the time to try to replicate that, but you have so much humility, Pat. But talk a little bit about maybe the growth from the time you and Janel started. Just a couple quick general numbers. Amount of acres you farmed, amount of pigs up to today, and then a lot of our listeners love to hear about up and to the right, the success, but usually learn the most from some hard times that all of us have gone through and how God has brought us through those. Janel touched on it earlier, but if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about how that, affected you and your business, your mindset, your heart, and then third thing would be talk a little bit about how you think about generosity. We know that you're extremely generous with your employees, with your profits, with your family, but just talk about how you think about generosity.
So I'll take the pig one, and maybe the hard times, because sometimes Janel's already referenced hers. If you want to tell a little bit about how we think about generosity, Janel, that works?
Sure.
So,
yep.
So your question, I think the best way to describe it is like when we first started, we had on average 5 baby pigs born every day of the year. So that would have been the equation. And today we have over 4,000 baby pigs born every day. So that'll give you a little snapshot.
A lot of little piggies, 4,000 a day.
Yep. So it sounds even crazy me saying it. So I don't lead with trying to tell everybody that, and you say, well, how do you do that? And it's just like a great team, and one baby pig a day, everybody's got a role, and just like anybody else does anything, we all just have, we have essentially like midwives would be an equation of a human side of that attend the baby pigs as they're being birthed, and then you like each stage they have different caretakers, and you have a way you go about it. So but the the probably the uh when you go through difficult times is a good one. I mean, Janelle referenced it. There's times we are affected by commodity prices. We have, like I said, weather, viruses, that just as we deal in the human population, we see viruses becoming more prevalent, and over the pandemic and all these things, you kind of see we have to deal with those same things in the on the animal side, and so some of those are really challenging. It's really hard to see your animals go through challenges. It's not only an emotional side. We do everything every day to try to help animals thrive. That's what our team does. That's what we do. It's like what we do. And so when you can't help them when they go through a sickness, it's just really challenging. And so, but you kind of go through and you have these. I'm a I don't know, a natural worrier, I suppose that would be a good way to describe it. I'm kind of like trying to, I'm always trying to think of everything, and but God's teaching me at times. He's had to like get my attention and go like, hey, look, who are you relying on? And he's had me wrestle at times over the last many years. You wrestle with, you say, well, hey, my identity's in Christ, but then you have all these challenges in business, and you go like, is my identity in Christ, or am I like wrapped up in this whole farming thing? It tends to get in your blood and like wrap its tentacles around you, and when something doesn't go right. So we're human just like everybody else, and you're trying to wrestle, and God has been, gracious and patient, and continues to teach us to wholly rely on him, and that's through this personal relationship with Jesus. Is when I was younger, I thought it was like a get out of hell card, and then as you grow in your faith, you realize that like I couldn't live without him. I mean, it's like, I don't know how people do it. I really have no idea, and so you kind of like, he's my everything. And so that whole relationship is so precious to me. And so but we don't get there. Nobody just opens your head up and pours that stuff in. We got to, we learn as humans. Unfortunately, we learn a whole lot more when we're in the vice than we do when everything's going great. So that's a little journey on the hard time side. So
thank you. Janelle, you want to do the giving piece?
Sure. So when we were first married, of course, we tithed, as any good Christian church-going family would do, but we always felt this need to set aside business funds and do something extra differently with it than just give to the church. Not that that wasn't good, but we just didn't know what to do. We just kind of felt like we needed to do something different. So we opened a separate checking account, and we'd put some money in there when we had extra and just kind of let it sit there. And just was clunky, right? If you were supporting a monthly missionary, you were writing 12 checks a year just to that one missionary family, and nothing wrong with that, but it just felt like we were kind of spinning our wheels, and there was a better way to do this. So through some research and that Pat had done and some connections that he had, we learned about the National Christian Foundation. And so it's been a huge opportunity for us as a family to just take funds that our business is, our giving, and we're trying to get to 20% of the income from the farm, our farm, into an NCF account each year. We're not quite there yet, but we're making progress. And use those funds, though, that that can sit there and be given through the NCF giving portal online to other organizations that truly are doing God's work. And so it's been a learning experience for us because we knew in our heart what we wanted to do. We just couldn't get it done. It was just frustrating, I guess. And so that's been huge for us. But as far as generosity is not always, you have to remember, it's not always for us. It's not always money. It's your time and it's your talents as well. And so we have really tried to focus on how can we, as a family and as a farm, take that opportunity that we have to care for not just our team, but not just our community, but also the world as well. So we've kind of broken down some of our giving and care for our team in those three manners. And I think that's been helpful for not just our family. I mean, we meet once a year, it's sometimes more often than that, sometimes a little less than that, it just depends on schedules. We get away for a couple of days as a family and we talk about what's important to each of us and how each one, we all have passions, right? My passions are different than Pat's, which are different than yours. And so how can we come together as a family and decide how we want to feel God calling us to give one way or the other. And so our youngest has a different passion than our oldest. And so it's been a journey for us to be able to help guide them. With 9 years between the oldest and the youngest, there's a maturity factor involved as well. And so you know, we've tried to set up some guardrails and they each have their own fund, and we put some of the funds from the farm of our giving right into that and allow them to be using them as they are able to, as they see fit, as God's calling on their heart. So I think that generosity for us is more than just money. It's also our time and our talent, and how can we as a family allow our team that opportunity as well. And so we try to give opportunities to volunteer and to get involved in different organizations locally, but also show them that it's not just us, it's each of them outward from that center circle. And so we've worked pretty hard at creating a Hord Cares Council and a Hord Cares team that allows us to. We started an alliance or an agreement, I guess, with Helping Hands, which is a nonprofit that is just caring for our employees through some funds that are set aside, not just as our family, but our employees can donate into it as well. And that would be for medical or dental expenses they might not have anticipated, or they get into a financial situation and they have some utility bills that need covered. That's another example. Maybe there's been a death in the family and they need help with that. They can also apply for adoption, because we as a family are pretty we're pretty focused on how can we continue to help children, not just here, but across the world as well. And so adoption is very important to Pat and I, although we've not personally adopted. We've been around families who have, and how can we continue to support what they're doing? And so we thought, why, we're going to throw that out to our team. If anyone of our team wants to adopt, you know, we're going to help give some funds towards that. And so Helping Hands has been really helpful to getting that piece out for our team to do and to participate in it. And then we've also tried to focus on some things, not just locally as far as donating a pig and for the sausage for the pancake breakfast, or for a raffle or something. Those seem simple, but yet they are, you know, as mentioned earlier, we have quite a few pigs, but every pig is seen every day. And I actually have someone in the office that can tell you where every pig is located every day, because that's important to us, that it's not just a number that's flying around. It's truly, you know, that's what we do every day. So I think the other thing that we've tried to do is help our team focus not just internally in our county, but also looking outside of that, where we've took a crew to build a home in Mexico a few years back, and we've just been giving them the opportunity to take Financial Peace by Dave Ramsey. So there's lots of opportunities that we're trying to give our team an opportunity to participate in, and it's you know, we personally give a lot to missions, and the work side of team, they don't always see what we've given, and that's part of what we've struggled with in the last few years, is that what's the Bible say? Don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing,
Right.
or something like that. And so we've really not shared with our team where giving has been, sent to. But on the other hand, they need to know too, they're invested in this, right? As well. They're here every day taking care of the pigs, or taking care of the tractors, or delivering the feed, or making the feed, or, taking care of paying the bills. There's always, it takes a team to make happen every day what happens at the farm, and how can they get plugged into that as well?
Do you think that
So.
I always find this to be fascinating that, um, thank you, Janelle, for sharing that. And Pat, also the way you're talking about in tough times, I'm sure there have been some tough decisions that you guys have had to make about personnel and benefits and that sort of thing when prices, go the wrong way. But have you found that your consistency, maybe through kind of holding up and taking care of people in the hard times, has the culture, it's got to be tough to attract and retain workers in this environment. I don't know anybody who says it's easy. um, has the culture surprised you with your ability to do that in the business? Maybe I'll point that to Pat.
Yeah, I mean, we think that culture is a differentiator in any business, not only just ours. And so I think we have a super committed, engaged core of long-term
Mm-hmm.
people that just love what they do. They like what they're doing, and they like doing it with us. And
Yeah.
so we are introducing this next generation to a lot of times we're introducing them to the first formal job that they have. We have
Right.
entry level positions working with animals. And so we have a whole training program around that. And some people appreciate what we do, and like and others, it's just, and so, so we feel like we have an opportunity to mold and shape. And, some people don't take advantage of that, and some people it's just not their passion. So it's okay. But yeah, we work hard at using and developing that culture that they want to be a part of what we do and feel good about being a part of the food system and producing food for people.
Hey, Pat, I know we're getting to the end of our time, but while you're talking, and Janelle, we'll let you formulate and answer this same question while he's talking, but we'll put Pat on the hot seat first. Is we always just try to have a practical tip. So what I'm kind of envisioning is somebody on the treadmill listening to this or driving down the road. Uh, Maybe they're in their F-150 going to their own farm, but they're maybe 20 years behind you guys, and things are starting to go well, perhaps, and they're trying to figure out how to use this platform. What's just some practical tip you might have for somebody behind you on the journey to kind of move in this direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hunger to, if you really want to, there's so many resources today. I mean, it's awesome. There's like, there, this podcast didn't exist how many years ago, right? There's just
Right.
so many different resources today. So I just encourage people, just go digging.
Mm.
There is, if you're passionate about it, that's what we did. We were like, hey, this thing is, described as a little clunky. We're trying to figure out how to tithe our business, is the way we looked at it. And it's like, I don't know exactly how to do it. And where do we find, where do we find neat ministries that are doing great work? How do we find those? We have this passion of agriculture. How can we help? How can we use, and that's one area of focus, education and agriculture. You heard Janelle tell she's a teacher. So we focus some of our things in education, and then we take, in agriculture as well around the world, and so you just go digging and find it. And the second piece I wrote down was that, I've learned along this is that it's so satisfying to be able to do what we do side by side with our family,
Mm.
and especially seeing your children through. We did not put any pressure on them. We said, hey, if you want to come back, that's awesome. You want to come back to the business. If you feel God's calling you someplace else, I don't want you here because you're going to make both of us miserable. And so let's figure out. But if you are passionate and you want to be here, let's go. And then it's been fun to work on the process of passing along wisdom and not just assets. So trying to figure out, how do you, we have a lot of assets as a farm. You have like land and all those things. But the first thing I would say is to think about is how are you building and investing in the next generation? So,
for essentially a farmer to say, go digging with your family, you can't make that up. That's too good. Okay. Janelle, how about you?
Sure. So I would say whether one's in their F-150 on the treadmill
There
or
you go,
however they
yeah.
happen to be hearing this, is that for me, I had to learn to be aware. I had to learn to stop the outside influences enough to be able to see the outside influences and be mindful of where am I at today and who needs to hear about the Lord and why. And being mindful of that, being present, I guess, is, and just have the wisdom, Lord, show me what I need to do to encourage another today, or show me what I need to do to further your kingdom today. And you can pray that, but are you aware of what he's going to present to you? So just being aware, the opportunity
and listen,
and
listen to the simple answer that little voice, maybe on a daily basis, that those little decisions maybe add up to the big one. Janelle, is that?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right. And we're all on a journey, right? So
exactly.
It's just, today is Monday. Today's the day. You're going to look onto the next day and see what God has in plan for you. But I think that's just being aware is important.
I love that. Well, thanks, Jeff Rutt. Thank you for being with us today. And Pat and Janelle, thanks so much for being with us on this week's podcast. It's great having you.
Yep, you bet. It was our pleasure.
And thanks, everybody, for joining us on this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. Share it with a friend, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.